private moment with my alien classmate until my friend caught us and demanded to join. The quiet attraction. The quantum calibration lab hummed with the soft whir of machinery, casting blue-white light across workbenches cluttered with tools and holographic displays. Darian Cross pushed his dark hair from his eyes, squinting at the resonance readings that refused to stabilize. 3 months into the semester at Zenith Station Academy, and he still found himself working far later than any sane student should. "You are frowning at the data again," came a melodic voice behind him. Darian's heart did that familiar skip it always did when Siva Thalrin spoke. He turned to find his lab partner approaching, her silver skin catching the ambient light in ways that made her seem almost ethereal. The Lumine exchange student moved with unconscious grace, her long frame elegant in the standard academy coveralls that somehow looked entirely different on her. "The harmonic frequencies won't sync," Darian admitted, stepping aside so she could view his screen. "I've recalibrated twice." Siva leaned in closer than strictly necessary, and Darian caught the faint scent of something like ozone and starlight that always surrounded her. Her fingers, long and delicate, danced across the controls with practiced ease. "Here," she said softly, adjusting a parameter. "You forgot to account for the station's orbital drift. It is subtle, but it affects everything." Their hands brushed as Darian reached to confirm the change, and neither pulled away immediately. The contact sent electricity up his arm, and he noticed Siva's skin rippling with faint pearl-colored luminescence, something he'd learned meant she was experiencing strong emotion. "Thank you," he managed, his voice rougher than intended. Siva's large, luminous eyes met his, eyes that held depths he wanted to explore forever. The emergency klaxons woke half the station at 0300 hours. Darian stumbled from his bunk, still half asleep, as Terran, his roommate, cursed colorfully and checked his datapad. "Solar storm," Terran announced, his copper skin gleaming in the emergency lighting. "Massive one. All flights grounded, campus lockdown for at least 12 hours. Darian's thoughts immediately went to Siva. She'd mentioned wanting to check on her botanical samples in the biodome tonight. Had she made it back to her quarters before lockdown? He grabbed his academy jacket and slipped into the corridor despite Terran's protests. The biodome was technically off-limits during emergencies, but the environmental systems there were independent. If Siva was trapped, at least she'd be safe. The gardens were a world unto themselves. 3 stories of engineered ecosystem beneath a transparent aluminum dome that normally offered breathtaking views of space. Now, sheets of charged particles painted the darkness in curtains of green and violet as the solar storm raged beyond the shielding. "Darian?" Siva's voice came from near the reflecting pool, relief evident. "I hoped you would come." She stood among the floating bioluminescent flowers, modified Terran orchids that drifted on anti-grav fields. Her silver skin reflected their soft glow, and she'd removed her jacket, wearing only a simple tank top that revealed the elegant lines of her shoulders and arms. "I couldn't leave you here alone," Darian said, closing the distance between them. "I am glad." Siva's skin began to shimmer with that pearl luminescence again, stronger now. "My people have a saying, hearts recognize their matches across the void. I knew when I first met you." Darian reached for her hand, lacing their fingers together. Her skin was warm, smooth, and where they touched, ripples of soft light pulsed in time with both their heartbeats. "Then why are we waiting?" he whispered. Siva closed the remaining distance, her lips meeting his in a kiss that tasted like starlight and felt like coming home.
The unexpected witness. They lost track of time in the gardens, surrounded by drifting flowers and the aurora display beyond the dome. Darian traced the patterns of light that flowed across Siva's skin, pathways that intensified with each kiss, each whispered confession of feelings too long held silent. In Lumine culture, Siva murmured against his neck, when skin glows like this, it means the soul has recognized its compliment. I am lighting up for you, Darien Cross. You're beautiful, he breathed, running his fingers along her arm and watching the luminescence follow his touch like a wave. Every part of you. She pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. Show me how humans express this feeling. Show me everything. What followed was slow and reverent, the careful removal of barriers both physical and emotional. Siva's skin transformed into a canvas of moving light, patterns swirling and pulsing with each touch, each shared breath. They found a secluded alcove behind the waterfall feature, where the sound of falling water provided privacy and the ambient warmth made everything comfortable. Darien had never experienced anything so profound, the way Siva's entire being seemed to resonate with their connection, how her light grew brighter as they explored this new intimacy together. She was responsive and giving, teaching him the places where Lumine were most sensitive, learning in turn what made him gasp her name. Time became meaningless. There was only sensation, emotion, the building crescendo of shared pleasure. Fade to black. Darien wasn't sure how much later it was when he heard the biodome entrance iris open. He and Siva had drowsed in comfortable exhaustion, her head on his chest, both of them still flushed and marked by their passion. Darien, you in here? The storm's finally... Terran Voss's voice cut off abruptly. Darien's eyes snapped open to find his best friend and roommate frozen 3 meters away, datapad dangling forgotten in his hand. Terran's copper-toned face registered pure shock as he took in the scene. Darien and Siva tangled together, clothes scattered, Siva's skin still pulsing with residual opalescent light. "Oh, hell," Terran stammered, his face darkening. The system said you were here. I thought you might be stuck. I should go." "Wait," Siva said, her voice calm and musical. She sat up gracefully, unbothered by her state of undress, and Darien felt her hand squeeze him reassuringly. Her luminous eyes studied Terran with an intensity that made the pilot shift uncomfortably. "Your heartbeat," she said softly. "I can hear it from here. Racing. And your pupils are dilated?" Terran swallowed hard, unable to look away from her despite clearly trying to. "I'm sorry, I'll just—" "You are attracted," she continued, tilting her head curiously. "To me? To Darien? To both?" The question hung in the air like the floating flowers around them. Darien felt his own heart pounding as he watched his best friend, confident, cocky Terran, who never seemed flustered by anything, struggle to form words. That's not... Terran ran his hand through his short hair, his jaw tight. "You two are together. I'm not going to..." "Lumine do not view connection as humans do," Siva interrupted gently. "We believe bonds strengthen when shared with those we trust. And Darien trusts you completely, does he not?" She turned to Darien, her eyes questioning, and he realized with a jolt that she was right. He trusted Terran with his life. They'd been friends since orientation, had survived countless emergencies and late-night study sessions together. And seeing Terran standing there, hunger and longing warring with loyalty on his face, Darien felt something unexpected stir in his chest. Not jealousy, something else entirely. "Terran," Darien said quietly, sitting up fully. "How long?" His friend closed his eyes. "How long what? How long have you felt this way?" A long pause, filled only with the sound of the waterfall and distant thunder from the storm beyond the dome. When Terran opened his eyes again, they were raw with honesty. "Since the beginning," he admitted hoarsely. "Both of you. I thought I could just ignore it, be the good friend, but walking in here and seeing you together, Seeing her glow like that, he broke off, shaking his head. I should leave. Or, Siva said, extending one glowing hand toward him, you could stay.
3 hearts aligned. The moment stretched between them like a held breath. Terran stared at Siva's outstretched hand, then at Darien, searching for any sign of doubt or reluctance. Darien found himself nodding, his own hand reaching out to join Siva's. "Stay," he said, surprised by the certainty in his voice. "Please." Terran took one hesitant step forward, then another, until he stood at the edge of their alcove. Up close, Darien could see the conflict in his friend's eyes, want and worry tangled together. "I don't want to damage what you two have," Terran said quietly, his usual confidence stripped away to reveal something vulnerable underneath. "You will not," Siva assured him, her skin brightening with warm golden tones. "Among my people, we say that love is not a flame that diminishes when shared. It is a star that burns brighter with each heart that orbits it." She stood gracefully, moving to Terran and taking his hand. Where their skin connected, her luminescence spread across his copper-toned fingers in delicate, spiraling patterns. Terran inhaled sharply at the contact. "You can feel it?" Siva asked softly. "Yes," he breathed. "It's like electricity, but warm, gentle." "That is resonance," she explained, guiding him closer to where Darien still sat. "My body recognizes compatible souls, and you, Terran Voss, resonate beautifully." Darien stood, facing his best friend with a racing heart. They'd known each other for years, but this felt like seeing Terran for the first time, really seeing him. The strong line of his jaw, the small horns that marked his Dravian heritage, the way his dark eyes held both strength and surprising tenderness. "Are you sure?" Terran asked Darien directly, needing to hear it clearly. Instead of answering with words, Darien closed the distance and kissed him. It was different from kissing Siva. Terran's lips were firmer, his response more urgent, tinged with the desperation of long-suppressed desire finally released. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Darien saw wonder written across his friend's face. "I'm sure," Darien said. What followed was exploration and discovery, 3 people learning a new choreography together. Siva guided them with the patience of her culture's understanding, showing them how Luminate communicated through touch and light. Her skin became a language of its own, patterns flowing and changing to express pleasure, affection, desire. Terran's hands, calloused from flight controls and rough from pilot work, contrasted beautifully with Darien's more careful scholar's touch. They learned each other's rhythms. Where Terran was passionate and intense, Darien was thoughtful and thorough. Siva flowed between them like water, connecting them, enhancing every sensation. The bioluminescent flowers seemed to respond to Siva's emotional state, brightening and swirling faster around their alcove, as if celebrating. Her skin painted all 3 of them with moving light, constellations that mapped their connection in real time. At one point, Terran paused, overwhelmed, and whispered, "I never imagined." "Neither did I," Darien admitted, his hand linked with both of theirs. "This is how it should be," Siva said, her voice rich with contentment. "I can feel both your heartbeats syncing with mine." She was right. Darien could feel it too, a rhythm building between them that was greater than any individual could create alone. The trust, the affection, the physical connection, it all wove together into something transcendent.
The new beginning. Morning light filtered through the biodome as maintenance crews announced the all clear. Darien, Siva, and Terran emerged from the gardens together, rumpled and marked by faint traces of luminescent patterns that Siva couldn't quite suppress. Several students stopped mid-conversation to stare. "Let them look,"
Terran said, with the return of his usual confidence, though his hand stayed firmly clasped with Darian's. Siva walked between them, her skin still showing the ghost names written across her ribs. My people would celebrate this. On Lumina Prime, bonded triads are considered especially blessed. On Earth and the colonies, it's complicated, Darian admitted, but I don't care. They made it back to the residential sector amid whispers and pointed glances. The first real challenge came at the housing office, where a bureaucrat with too much starch in his collar informed them that Academy regulations clearly state 2 occupants maximum per residential unit. Then give us a larger unit, Terran said flatly, one rated for 3. Those are reserved for families. We are a family, Siva interrupted, her skin flashing with indignant crimson tones. Perhaps not in the way your forms recognize, but families take many shapes across many worlds. The bureaucrat looked ready to argue until Darian pulled up the Academy's own diversity and inclusion charter on his datapad, highlighting the passage about respecting varied cultural approaches to partnership and cohabitation. They got their larger quarters. The weeks that followed were an adjustment. They learned to navigate shared space, Terran's tendency to leave flight manuals everywhere, Darian's need for quiet study time, and Siva's unusual sleep schedule that had her most active during station night. They faced disapproving stares from traditionalist faculty and curious questions from more open-minded students. But they also discovered unexpected joys. Terran's piloting skills combined with Darian's engineering knowledge and Siva's understanding of exotic propulsion theory made them an unbeatable team on collaborative projects. They consistently topped their respective classes, their academic work strengthened by the deep trust and communication they developed. The Biodome, now affectionately called the Constellation Room among students who knew their story, became their sanctuary. They booked it regularly for botanical research, and no one questioned why the bioluminescent flowers seemed to bloom more vibrantly than ever before. On quiet nights, they would lie together beneath the dome's transparent ceiling, watching the stars wheel overhead. Siva would glow softly in the darkness, her skin painting both their partners with gentle light as they talked about their futures. After graduation, Terran mused one evening, his fingers interlaced with Darian's while his other hand rested on Siva's hip. We could request assignment to the same vessel. Deep space exploration needs pilots, engineers, and xenobiologists. Together, Darian said, liking the sound of it. Always together. Yes, Siva agreed, her voice warm with contentment. Her skin brightened, and new patterns emerged. Not names this time, but something like intertwined orbits, 3 paths that looped and connected in eternal dance. Among the stars, where we belong. They became a fixture at Zenith Station, the inseparable trio who defied conventions and made it work anyway. Underclassmen whispered their story like legend. The shy human engineer, the cocky half-Dravian pilot, and the luminous Luminae who brought them together. Faculty members who'd initially disapproved found themselves grudgingly impressed by their academic excellence and obvious devotion to each other. Love, they proved, didn't follow regulations or traditional boundaries. It found its own orbit, its own rhythm, its own light in the darkness of space. And in the constellation room, beneath Jupiter's eternal storms, 3 hearts beat as one, a small miracle in the vast universe, but a miracle nonetheless.